Yes, we're live already, Mr. Jeffrey.
Uh,
Hi, I'm Daniel Lucas, and welcome to Book 101 Review. Book 101 is all about the books we gotta read for the last 40 years. So today I have my special guest. He is the author of the upcoming book, Racing Against Time, no other than Mr. Jeffrey Weiss.
how are you?
Well, welcome to Book 101, Mr. Jeffrey. I'm fabulous, and thank you so much for being part on Book 101 review. And can you please introduce more about yourself?
Sure, and thank you so much for having me. My name's Jeff Weiss, and the book is about my journey in fitness and endurance sports. I started when I was 48 years old with a first 10K, and continued on from them from that point. Took on my first marathon in 2012, my first ultra marathon in 2018. Progressed through triathlons, beginning with a sprint to Olympic, and then my first half Ironman in 2018, and my first full Ironman in 2019. And basically, the book is the story of my journey, beginning at the age of 48 until a couple of years ago when I turned 61 and did my longest ultra marathon to this point, a 72-mile race around Lake Tahoe in Nevada. So basically, it's about those experiences and the impact that they've had on my life.
Mr. Jeffrey Wise, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world. So let's talk about your upcoming book. What forces have turned modern life into a relentless race against time, and why is this pace unsustainable?
It's funny. I don't see by racing against time. My intent with that title was more using fitness to not so much to fight time, but to contend with the toll that aging takes on our body, on our mental outlook, things of that sort, and how we can really contend with that in an effective way by finding a way to incorporate fitness, regular exercise into our lives. And I think part of, for me at least, of the success in incorporating fitness was incorporating racing and having events on my calendar that require me to train over an extended period of time with a purpose. Um, and so for me, that is the race against time. It's really the race to try to preserve our wellness, our health, for as long as we can, to be really joyful, adventurous, and to really get the most out of life into our 40s, 50s, 60s, and so on. And I think a lot of that is within our power by the choices that we make, whether with respect to exercise, nutrition, sleep, and so on. So really, that was the intent behind the selection of that particular title.
Mr. Jeffrey, beyond burnout, how does living in constant urgency erode creativity, relationships, and decision making?
I think obviously it's important to find ways to relieve the pressures and stresses that we feel in our lives. I think that activities that divert us, distract us in a pleasant way, give us an escape or release, can really help with that. And certainly for me, I think regular exercise has been a terrific way to provide something that is interesting, compelling, exciting in my life that is not just work, because obviously work can become an all-consuming drain on our time and attention.
Definitely. And Mr. Jeffrey, how do we distinguish between externally imposed false urgency and meaningful time sensitive goals?
I think that for me at least, I think the goal is to be mindful and mindful in the sense not just of noticing what we're involved with and what we're doing, but to really try to make deliberate choices about how we spend our time. when it comes to work, trying to make a deliberate choice in favor of work that gives our lives meaning and a sense of purpose and a sense of accomplishment. And in a mindful, thoughtful, intentional way, trying to find a way to bring other value into our life, whether it's our relationships, our activities, hobbies, fitness outside of work, to try to find balance in that way. What we don't, in my view, want to just let life happen to us and to be passive with respect to the things that really play such an impact. Play such an impact on our happiness and our wellness. And so, I think to the extent that we can be intentional and thoughtful in our choices, I think we are much more likely to really be fulfilled and happy.
Definitely. Fulfillment and happy for sure. So, why do so many people become addicted to the adrenaline of deadlines and overscheduling, even when it harms them?
Well, I think the challenge is obviously we want to be successful in the things that we do, and deadlines are a fact of life in our in the business world, and it can be a challenge to find that balance between doing the things that we need to do to be successful in the business world, and perhaps taking it to a harmful level of losing perspective and losing control over other aspects of our life. So I think it's a challenge, and I think to the extent that you know that, that a particular job situation is causing that much unhappiness in our lives, I think we want to be intentional about, is this something that we can fix, or is this something that we need to change?
Yes, it's challenging indeed. And Mr. Jeffrey, why do humans chronically underestimate how long tasks take, and how does this accelerate the race?
Um, I think that I think we tend to be optimistic about things, and we tend to perhaps expect that things will be easier, shorter, quicker than in fact they often can prove to be. And I think that's another important life skill, is to develop patience and to develop a deeper understanding about what our capabilities are, and what we can do, and how quickly we might be able to do it in this world.
How does the belief "I don't have enough time" become a self fulfilling prophecy?
I think in general, so much of our ability to succeed in anything that we do in life comes down to our mindset. I'm a big fan of Carol Dweck's book, Mindset, and her distinguishing between a growth mindset and a fixed mindset. And a growth mindset really being one that causes us to understand that we don't necessarily know the limits of our abilities, um, and to be open to the possibility that we can improve in things that we may not have thought were particular strengths of ours. Um, so I think when we really tap into that kind of framing of our lives, I think all sorts of things become possible.
How do smartphones, instant messaging, and algorithms hijack our perception of time and create artificial urgency?
Um, I think they are, obviously huge distractions. Um, they demand our attention for work purposes, for personal life purposes, and it can be hard to ignore them because we want to be good at our jobs and we want to be attentive to the people in our lives. Um, and that's a struggle. I think that there's no getting away from that. And I think there are different strategies for how to contend with that. But I think I think things that actually serve a real purpose, trying to get them under control can be especially challenging. And we do need smartphones in our lives.
Yes, indeed. Totally struggles and distractions for sure. Do marginalized communities experience time pressure more acutely, or how?
Honestly, I don't know. I believe we'd have to ask somebody from one of those communities. I think that obviously a lot of time pressure comes from our modern economy, from certain kinds of jobs, but hard to know how other groups within the population handle that.
In Mr. Jeffrey, in what ways does capitalism benefit from keeping people in a state of hurried scarcity?
I don't know. I don't consider myself an economics philosopher, um, but obviously it's the nature of our world that we're busy. We have things that we need to do. We want to provide for ourselves, for our families, and so I think that's probably a pretty inevitable feature of life, and I think not just in capitalist countries, but in all countries around the world. Life is inherently challenging, and I think our goal needs to be to make it fulfilling and meaningful and as joyful as we can.
Definitely. And what does declaration look like a practice without sacrificing ambition or responsibility?
I missed the first part of that question. What does?
Dec- Deceleration, sorry. How does
Oh,
deceleration look like in a practice without sacrificing ambition or responsibility?
I think it comes back again to being intentional. I think decelerating in a way that allows us to continue to do the things that we need to do in life, but to do them at a pace that actually is sustainable over the long term. I've always been a fan of the expression that it's a marathon and not a sprint. And we need, just like in true marathons, I think in life as well, we need to pace ourselves for the long road ahead. And So I think decelerating can come from truly trying to figure out what works best for me that will allow me to be the best version of myself for the longest period of time possible.
The best, for sure, the best version of you and me. It's something else. And Mr. Jeffrey, as an author, or as a debut author, what are your short term and long term goals?
This is actually my third book.
Oh,
Um,
okay. As an
uh,
author.
I just want to keep being able to write about things that are meaningful to me. Um, I find writing to be inherently satisfying, enjoyable, um, and if there's a story that I think is interesting to me, I hope that I can make it interesting to other people as well. If there's a story that I think has contributed to my life, again, the same thing. I want to try to share that with other people, and hopefully, it will have an impact in a positive way on their lives as well. And certainly, this fitness journey of mine is very much that kind of a story. At least I hope that it is.
Yes, indeed. So, Mr. Jeffrey, what is the title of your first book and second book? Can you share to us?
First book was "I Am My Brother's Keeper," and the second book was "Fighting Back."
Is it available on Amazon too?
Yes, both are available on Amazon.
Awesome, awesome. So, can you tell about a little bit information about the first book?
The first book relates to Israel's War of Independence in 1948. Israel, the day that it announced its independence, was invaded on all of its borders, and it at that point did not have a modern air force or armored corps or navy. And so, to fight off the invasion, among other things, it recruited volunteers from other countries, World War II veterans, and about 1,000 from Canada and the United States came, and really helped establish the Israeli Air Force. And so, that first book is their story of that group who came and the things that they did, and they were quite impressive. And then the second book, Fighting Back, is about one particular one of those volunteers, an American named Stan Andrews, who had been a bomber pilot during World War II. And he came to Israel, became one of the first fighter pilots in the Israeli Air Force, and actually designed a logo for the squadron, which the Israeli Air Force continues to use to this day.
Interesting books, Mr. Jeffrey. And what will be your piece of advice for those people out there want to be an author like you?
I think to me, a couple of things. I think I like the notion of wanting to write books that you would want to read. So, in other words, not trying to figure out what will be commercial, but really trying to figure out what will give you joy and something that you'll really enjoy doing. And then I think the second most important piece of advice is to try to write every day. And every day can be 15 minutes a day, 30 minutes a day. In my case, it's an hour a day. But to pick an amount of time and to try to stick with it and really make it a habit. And you'll be amazed at how much progress you can make over time if you really stay with the practice.
Definitely. Practice make it perfect, people. And stop procrastinating. If you have the passion to write, and share to the world, just like Mr. Jeffrey. And for sure. So, what are your recommended books that influence your journey?
A few of them. I'm a huge fan of David Goggins. He's written two books, Can't Hurt Me and Never Finished. I think they both were just spectacular about his journey of personal growth, both with respect to fitness and just in general his outlook on life. Super inspiring. And Never Finished, really about David in his 40s and really staying with it, which especially speaks to me as an older athlete. So I think that one was huge, and then a number of books really opened my mind to the world of ultramarathons. Ultramarathon Man by Dean Karnassus, Finding Ultra by Rich Roll, and Ultra Mindset by Travis Macy. Those were all really, really terrific. Loved Born to Run. Loved a book called Younger Next Year, which I read early in my journey and really focused me on this notion that you can really transform how you age if you commit yourself to exercise the way that he defines it, at least 6 days a week, not 7, 6 days a week, and at least 45 minutes each session. And I really do think there's power in that framework. And then I read a book called You Are an Iron Man, which really planted the seed in my mind of going after an Ironman race. And did my first one in 2019, my second in 2021, in my late 50s, and found both to be intensely meaningful experiences. So I think those are probably the books that most sort of shaped my fitness journey. And then I mentioned that book Mindset by Carol Dweck, which in general, just in terms of a life philosophy and way of thinking, I think is probably one of the most powerful books I've ever read.
Mr. Jeffrey, thank you so much for your recommended books. I hope our listeners or viewers will read them so that they will empower them like you. And what is the systemic changes could elevate the time race at scale?
Um, I'm probably not really qualified to answer that in a complete way. I can only really, I think, speak, from the perspective of an individual. And, again, my advice is to really take stock of your life. We have only this one life in this world of ours, and we really want to make the most out of it. So, to as much as possible, try to be intentional about every aspect of it, whether it's your relationships, your work life, the things that you do outside of work, the things that you do to keep yourself healthy. I think to me, that's probably the only real practical advice that I could give to folks.
Definitely. So, why do people prioritize short term wins over legacy building, and how can we rebalance?
Um, I think it's a natural thing. I think patience is something that we want to develop. And I think we want to really think through what we mean by a win, an accomplishment, and really define it properly. And often that means defining it as something that's more long-term and lasting, and that will really have a transformative effect on us. things that happen quickly, that come quickly, that come without a lot of work, tend not to leave behind lasting effects. And so I think we really want to think through how we define success and how we define a win, and then to go after the ones that really will change us in a positive way.
Definitely. And Mr. Jeffrey, before we wrap up our discussion for today, I'm inviting you to please do listen to my other podcast, people. My other podcast, because my abstract essay is already in fifth season. Abstract poetry in second season, and my book 101 review in fifth season too. Comedy 101 in second season, and my food 101 in fifth season as well. Geography 101 in fourth season, and my baby podcast, Mental Health 101 and Law 101.
Hmm.
Love Letters in third season, and my movie 101 review and music 101 in its fourth season, and science 101 and sex 101 in its first season. Please listen to them or wherever you listen your podcast. Mr. Jeffrey, what's the first step you recommend for someone feeling trapped in the urgency cycle to start reclaiming agency?
I think for different folks, it's different. Interventions will be helpful. I think taking long walks, slowing things down, really trying to examine every aspect of your life, and to think through where you can make improvements, what's possible, what's not possible. And although I would hope over the long term, lots of things that may not be possible today can be possible over the longer term, and to really plot a strategy to make meaningful changes that will bring balance and joy into your life. And then I think reading good books is always a powerful thing. They can really inspire change. Getting recommendations from people that you respect and admire, and who are leading the kind of life that you would like to lead. I think that can be a great thing as well.
Definitely, Mr. Jeffrey Weiss. Thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world through your books. And we are hoping for more and more and more empowering books like this to come. So, can you please invite our listeners to support your upcoming books as well as all your books?
Yes, thank you so much. And the title of the book again is Racing Against Time, and it's available for pre-order on Amazon. Thank you so much for having me, Daniel.
Yes, people, let's support Mr. Jeffrey Weiss because if you support him, for sure, more and more and more empowering books like this to come. So, Mr. Jeffrey, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much.
More to come, people. See you soon.